in this moment. Affirm to yourself, I have awakened to the always present, always loving nature of spirit. And so it is. Namaste.
When it comes to this CSL principle, I always think of the time that I was on the roof of my house with either my heater didn't work or my AC didn't work, one of the two. Although I found out that if I threw a rock at it, that would often kick it on. And Ken Kasner called me, and he's like, how you doing? And I was on the roof. And in that moment, I said, I'm doing great because only good can come of this. And so I have another example of that today. I texted our soloist today at about, 8:35 or so. I said, we good? His reply was, no. Car problems, so we're sending love, light, and mechanical know-how to Daniel Vega. Apparently got his car towed from Williams last night. I don't know. But in the realm of only good can come of this means I get to be the soloist. And for thank you. And for a long time, I've wanted to play this song for someone. And today, the opportunity, the stars aligned, and Daniel Vega's car broke down, and only good can come of this. So I'm going to say thank you, Daniel, because now I get to do this song. And I wrote this song. This is one of the, all my songs have come to me. I don't really write songs. They come to me, which maybe is why I get one song about every 7 years. And man, I'm a chatterbox today. And I think a lot of people have had this feeling that when they get here, the first time they come here to this place, they're like, this is what I was already down with, and now I have found the place that's already down with it. And so this song, I wrote this long before I knew this place existed, but it was CSL Principle. I was basically in a kind of dark place, and so I wrote a song from the future me saying, life is great, and I'm reminding you now that life will be great, so you might as well accept it's great now. Written in a hotel room in Colorado with Casper Lomayesva. So it seems you're still in doubt. You're looking like there's no way out of these blues that's got you down. Well, I'm glad that I'm still around. I know a little something too, a little something I've been through that just might pertain to you. God will bring you happiness again. God will bring you happiness again. I see you stuck sleeping with your past. She's dead and buried, but you want her to last. And you think you better get a grave too. Well, that's not something that you should do, 'cause the future will be your lover too. And the past, she's not the jealous kind. She won't mind. God will bring you happiness again. 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 Thank you all.
There is the possibility of things getting even better. Gaining my voice. Oh, you'd think we planned that, huh? God's got a sense of humor in this place. So, often, as you're going through the run-up to something, as you're working really hard to create something, we can get tired, yes? It can get really flipping annoying that I'm back here praying on this again. And it feels like God's got me on hold and keeps saying, just press 1, because there is only one. Press 1. Okay, now press 1. There are times that it just feels like that, right? I know that I've arrived because somebody tried to steal my identity last week. And I spent a lot of work doing that press 1. Just press 1. And I decided it's quite the compliment. Somebody so likes me, they want to be me. And I so want to call them and say, no, honey, you're great just as you are. The world needs a you. It's already got a me. And so I recognize that run-up can be hard. And sometimes we do weird stuff in the midst of it, yes? We do weird stuff that tries to help us survive. And in some cases, it's like trying to steal someone's identity, and in some cases, it's writing a song to remind ourselves, or finding an exercise to remind ourselves that we are more than our current circumstances. That there is a power in the universe for good that is greater than we are, and we can use it. As a matter of fact, we can't help using it. It wants to create good through us. Sometimes I get a little creative and, grab the wheel and take over, and I end up with like peanut butter and spinach soup or something like that, because I was being creative, like I know better than God. Don't make it that way, by the way, it's nasty. And then sometimes wisdom comes to us. I was reading a book, or actually listening to a book this week called The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. Has anyone else read it or heard it? She used to play this game with her kids because they did a lot of traveling. And as the plane was moving forward, they'd say, wheels, 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 wheels. And then when it got off the ground, it was lift. And she said there are times where you're saying wheels, 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 wheels. What the heck, God? Wheels, 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 wheels. But you always get to that lift. And so the thing I loved about her book is that at the very end, the book is basically about gender equity and about how if we will recognize the good that women are already doing in this world, we can bring them up to the same level of respect and power that men have. We don't want to get rid of men. I promise you, we don't want to get rid of the divine masculine. Men, you are perfectly safe. We still need you. We still love you. We just want equity. But at the end of the book, she started talking about equity is not actually the goal. It's a step along the path. The real goal is connection. If we don't have equal respect and equal power and equal voice, there can be no honest connection. Yes? And so what we're really looking for is connection. That's why we come together here as a group. It's why we're recording this, so hello, YouTubers, so that we can come together and connect with all of the other vessels of the divine that we know exist. Yes? So our book this week is all about that, creating that connection. Actually, it's the book this month, and it's called The Gentle Art of Blessing. And the subtitle is A Simple Practice That Will Transform You and Your World. And it absolutely does. Now, we don't generally refer to it as blessing, but the author, Pierre Pradervand, I'm just going to call him Pierre because I'm pretty sure I messed that up. And I want to connect with him as he truly is. And also, I can't pronounce it. So Pierre was working, he does a lot of work with organizations and with countries to create a better world and to create peace. And he was working with this one particular company where he was set up to fail. Somebody had a moment, and in their choices set it up so that he either had to quit or go against all of his principles and do something that he found wrong. And so he had to quit. And he said he spent rather a large amount of time hating that person. You ever gotten out of a bad relationship or a bad job and you were absolutely sure the person over there was the problem? Except that you still have the problem and they're long gone? One day, as he was trying to work through his stuff, he heard the words from Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. Bless them that curse you. Now, in this country, for whatever reason, when we think Christianity, we tend to go to the Ten Commandments. That's what goes on plaques. I would suggest that what it would be better to do, what might be more loving and accepting and powerful to do, is to put the Sermon on the Mount out there. Blessed are the peacemakers. Bless everything, bless everyone that is living from their wholeness, no matter what it looks like on the outside. So he heard, bless and curse not. And so he began a practice, which I'm sure was very difficult at first, of blessing the person who set him up to lose his job. Now, bless has a lot of different meanings. When Hazel was praying right before service, because we get together and pray the service in, she said bless so many times that I had to sneeze. I have a friend, a colleague, and a mentor actually, who every time somebody sneezes, he says bless you, they say thank you, and he says that's what I do, because he's a minister. Those of us who grew up in the deep South have a totally different definition, because we heard, oh, bless her heart. And we all know what that means, right? It is not a blessing. If you're driving through the deep South and somebody blesses you, check yourself, because you have just ticked somebody off. So there's all of these different definitions of blessing, and I just want to make sure that we're talking about what Pierre was talking about. What he writes on page 2 is, by blessing, I mean wishing from the bottom of the heart, in total sincerity, the very best for those people, their complete fulfillment and deepest happiness. Later on, he writes on page 103, it says, to bless means to wish unconditionally and from the deepest chamber of your heart, unrestricted good for others and events. It means to hallow, to hold in reverence, to behold with awe that which is always a gift from the Creator. To wish unconditionally and from the deepest chamber of your heart unrestricted good for others and for events if that's what's bothering you. I want you to think of politics for a moment, specifically the other party, whoever that is to you. Can you wish those people, and it's always at those people, unrestricted good from the bottom of your heart? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of people go, oh no, Reverend Kathleen, it is far too flippin' early on a Sunday morning for you to be going there. Sorry, guys, I've gone back to the caffeinated coffee, and we're going there. To me, how I hear what he's calling blessing is I am looking through the circumstances and seeing through to the truth of a person. Seeing through whatever it looks like, whatever their behavior might be, and choosing to see the God in them. And bless it and be grateful for it and call it forth until that choice to witness the God in them creates the absolute necessity of it acting out through them. This is not me fixing or rescuing or changing anything. It's choosing to see the truth of them until they see it in a different way for themselves. And absolutely refusing to be fooled by the circumstances that make it look like I have finally found the spot where God is not. The one person that God made on a bad day. I choose to remember that that is still a divine being, must be there for good, must absolutely be part of creating something better, the world that works for everyone, as we say it. No matter what I think of their behavior, no matter how bad I want to pull aside their mama and say, excuse me, what the hell did you do? Like it's really all mom's fault, right? That's how therapists stay in business. And as a person who tried to become a therapist and didn't quite get there, I get it. Now, Ernest Holmes would write that blessing is constructive thought directed toward anyone or any condition. You bless a man, and yes, this was written 100 years ago, so by man he means a person. You bless a person when you recognize the divinity in him. You bless a man's business when you think correctly about that business. So it's not that you're making something up. It's that you're choosing to witness the precious metal underneath the tarnish. You know, I have some of, like, bits and pieces of my mother's sterling silver. It's like 3 forks, 2 knives, and a spoon. And no matter how tarnished that sterling silver is, I can still take it in and get paid for its weight, for the fact that it is sterling silver. I don't have to polish it first. I spend plenty of time polishing that stuff. Why do you think I want to get rid of it? We, no matter how much tarnish we have on us, no matter how much tarnish we've been told we have on us, we are still indelibly stamped with that, checked by God, cleared by God. We are made out of God's stuff. And absolutely cannot get lost from that. That's why at the beginning of service we say, whoever you are, wherever you've been, you're welcome here. We're welcoming the God within you. We don't need to know your name. And in many cases, forgive me, but I won't. That's why I have my own name tag, so I don't forget the one that I really need to know. Although sometimes if you call me Kelly Kathleen Michael, I will respond to that too. I'll hear it in my mother's voice, but whichever one you are, come here. So what we're doing really is recognizing the truth about somebody else, their beauty, their joy, their good, and seeing that and blessing that, standing witness to that, so that it can come forward. Now, who benefits when the absolute love of God comes forward in the person you mistakenly did not like or thought was awful? Who benefits? Everybody. One tide raises all boats. When women do better in a country, it's been proven over and over again that the entire country does better. When women are paid for their work, the entire economy does better. As a matter of fact, there's a direct correlation with raising up the rights and the welfare of women and children with a country moving into better days. It's just what happens over and over and over again. To the point now where NGOs or non-governmental operations or whatever, organizations will go into a country and specifically work for women's equity as a means of creating peace, as a means of creating abundance and saving the children. That's just how they do it now. And it works. Another way of thinking about this, who here has ever studied Martin Buber? For reasons other than it's fun to say his last name, Buber. Not Bieber, Buber. Okay. He's from Austria, but he mostly lived in Germany and Israel. He was born in 1878 and died in 1965. And in 1923, he published a book called, well, in German, but it was, the English translation is I and Thou. And the way he explained these things, and understand, I mean, as a German Jew, he lived through some rough stuff. What he said was, sometimes we have an I-it relationship. The humanity, the perfection, the beingness is here in the I. And I can relate to something as an it, something that does not have a beingness in and of itself. Or I can do an I-thou relationship, where there's the beingness in me, the beingness in the other person, and the relationship exists between us. So there's an energy, I picture it as like a set of pathways between the two of us, and that's where God lives. That is where the divine being lives, by whatever name we use for it, whether we call it God or life or love or energy. The I-thou relationship is a relationship with the beingness of the other person. And rather famously, he talked about how we choose to take an I-thou relationship with somebody and turn it into an I-it relationship with somebody, because that allows us to go to war. You will never, ever be violent against, mentally or physically, an I-thou. You will, with disturbing ease, be destructive toward an I-it. Which is, you know, when we look back at the wars over the ages, usually each side has a derogatory name for the other side, right? It's a them. Let's make a nasty name for it. That allows us to do the I-it thing. But what we're doing there is not blessing them, is it? It's cursing them. And what we have been taught by most faiths, by most, I am blessing the clarity in my tongue right now. What we have been taught over and over again by many different faith philosophies is that if you curse something, if I choose to stay in the I-it, if I choose to stay in the relationship with the person who, for whatever reason, I don't like, with their bad behavior, then we both get to stay in that relationship. And things will spiral downward from there. In my family, we call that Irish Alzheimer's, because we forget everything but the grudges. It ain't pretty towards the end, guys. It just gets nasty. However, if we choose to bless and not curse, by whatever way your faith talks about that, what we get to do is be in relationship with the divine. It's the perception of wholeness that creates healing, according to Ernest Holmes. Not the creation of wholeness, not the imbuing of wholeness, not the imbuing of sacredness, because I stand up here with all my great big ego and tell you you're okay. When we perceive the wholeness in the other person, that's when healing happens. That's when oneness happens. And all healing, all blessing is self-healing and self-blessing. When you choose to see the wholeness of the person, that you can come up with 27 different reasons why they're not okay. They're so not okay. When you choose to see the good in them, what you're doing really is fixing the mirror. So often, Eddie Watkins is one of the great musicians in our movement, and he writes great songs, and one of the lines in one of his songs is something having to do with trying to fix my hair by combing the mirror. Now, it's funny because the man is bald, but how many of us have tried to fix our own hair by combing our mirrors? Come on. I can't possibly be the only one. Over and over and over and over and over. When we choose to look within ourselves and see God, and we choose to look around ourselves and be grateful for what we see, because we see the divine, we see ultimate good, that is what frees us from having to take ourselves too seriously, from having to be worried about what somebody else will say about us. I was listening to Ram Dass last night, and I had never heard this one before, but he said that Ram stands for rent-a-mouth. This man, who is known the world over for speaking wisdom, could giggle at his own ability to go on and on and on. I choose to see that as something we have in common. And yes, I am just like Ram Dass. I'm not going to say how, but I'll claim it. I'm going to go back to Ernest Holmes for a moment. He says in the Science of Mind textbook, when we constructively praise and creatively bless, life abounds with love, peace, and joy. It is in our best interest, what my mother used to call enlightened self-interest, to see the good in other people and refuse to harp on what they did wrong. So this week, I'm going to ask you to run an experiment with me. And because I am Irish Catholic, I'm going to invite you to happy hour, which, swear my hand to God, when I was a kid, I thought was a Catholic thing. Solemn high nap time and happy hour were the other two rites besides the Mass. Hey, it was great, you know? This way you don't have to sleep during the Mass. You have solemn high nap time. Happy hour now means that at 4 o'clock, you can set a timer on your watch. At 4 o'clock, you're going to stop whatever you're doing, and whatever's in front of you, you're going to bless the hell out of it. No pun intended. Well, maybe a little intended. Happy hour now means that we all stop and bless, especially if that person is being annoying. You're going to find yourself at 3:55 looking for people to be annoyed with, because you can bless them at 4 o'clock and call forth something better. And just keep doing this until you move on to other stuff naturally. If you spend the whole hour doing it, imagine how high as a kite you're going to be at the end. I swear, this is the best legal high you will ever get. And it's not like they can make it illegal. Stop being happy, So because we have tools and because we use those tools wisely, we're going to use one of our tools called affirmative prayer to call forth that good here and now. And I see a lot of new faces here, so I'm just going to tell you, I pray